Hello, everybody, and welcome to this PMP Certification Fast Track Coaching Program. This is Masterclass number 2. Today, we're going to be looking at project scope management, project schedule management. Welcome to this PMP. As I said, we're going to be looking at project scope management, project schedule management, project cost management, and project quality management. And then we're going to round up with a few next steps, okay? So that's really what we're going to be doing today. So let's go ahead and begin. I'm Dr. KD Ewulu. I'll be working with you today. I'm the lead trainer for KD Leadership. I'm the developer of this upcoming PMP Certification Fast Track Coaching Program. All right, I'd like to start by talking about the PMI. The PMI is the world's largest project management certification body. It's called the Project Management Institute. Okay, and in the PMI, there's something called the ATP and there's something called the ATI. The ATP is an acronym for the Authorized Training Partner. The company KDEL is an ATP, is an Authorized Training Partner. It's authorized by the PMI to run programs that will lead to the PMP certification. The ATI, on the other hand, is the acronym for the Authorized Training Instructor. Now, there's all sorts of instructors within the PMI Project Management Institute family. But to be an instructor for the PMP, which is the world's most recognized project management certification, means that you're teaching the flagship class. And that's what a lot of you are looking at. You want to look for an easy way, a cost-effective way to get prepared, to get qualified to take your PMP certification. Because once you get that PMP certification, it assures you of at least 36% increase in your salary, recognition in your field, promotion, and it equips you with a knowledge base to handle complex projects. So let's go ahead and begin. We're going to be having masterclasses 1, 2, 3, and 4. We had the first one on April the 2nd. The second one is today, May the 2nd. The third one will be on June the 2nd, and the last one will be on July the 11th. After which, we'll be starting the PMP Certification Fast Track Coaching Program on July 16th. So, what are the benefits of the PMP Certification Fast Track Coaching Program? Number one, it helps you meet the 7,500 hours PMI qualifying prerequisites for the exams. It helps you meet the 35 contact hours, again, to qualify to take the exams. It provides all the study and prep materials directly from the Project Management Institute. It helps with exam documentation with the PMI to prepare you for that exam. It doesn't make sense to meet all the prereqs, but because of documentation lapses here and there, you're not able to qualify to take the exam. So my team is going to be helping you get all that done. You don't just have to worry. Basically, we provide accountability touch points. And then, of course, it saves you about $6,500 in overall costs and also offers convenient monthly payment plans. All right, so let's just go ahead and start. I will be sharing my screen just a little bit, just so that you guys can follow me going forwards, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we can start with the masterclass proper. So this is masterclass number 2, and there are 4 sections here. We're going to be talking about project scope management. All right? Okay, having said that, project scope management has 6 processes. Okay, and these processes include plan scope management, collect requirements, define scope, create work breakdown structure, which is called the WBS, validate scope, and control scope. And a lot of these we're going to go into detail when we get into the coaching program proper, when we get into getting you ready for the exam. All right? Okay, I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, exactly what it is project scope management entails. So, as you can see on the screen, project scope management has inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. All right? You have to understand that these are the things that are part of the system. Inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques. What are the inputs? The inputs include the project management plan, the project charter, enterprise organizational factors, and what you call organizational process assets. The tools and techniques include expert judgment and meetings. And then the output, of course, is the scope management plan and the requirements management plan. Now, I want to point something out here very briefly before we move on. When you get into the exam, each of the management plans, there's scope, there's cost, there's quality, there's procurement, there's risk, on and on and on. When you talk about inputs, there are two standard inputs that are common across all those. And those are the enterprise environmental factors and the organizational process assets. Under the tools and techniques, the expert judgment you see there and the meetings run across that whole gamut as well, run across the entire spectrum from scope to cost to quality and on and on. The only differences are some of the inputs and of course the outputs are different. Okay, when you get to the management plans, each scope has a scope management plan as an output, cost has a cost management plan, quality has a quality management plan, and on and on and on, as a lot of you know. Now, in the scope management itself, there are 6 processes in this knowledge area. And apart from this general input, tools, and outputs of scope management, each of these 6 knowledge areas also have their own inputs, techniques, and outputs. My advice is please learn and memorize them from your PMP guide. PMP guide is an acronym for the Project Management Body of Knowledge. It is the de facto Bible of project management. All right, that's what you're going to be tested on utilizing that textbook. I'll show you how you're going to get that as soon as you enroll in the course. I'll show you how you're going to get that at a cheap cost. In fact, you're not going to pay anything for it. These are all backdoors that we have access to as soon as you join the PMI. Okay, so let's look at some project management tools that exist, especially with regards to project scope. There's a work breakdown structure, WBS. There's a network diagram and analysis, and there's a Gantt chart. These are the three main project management tools that as they apply to scope management. All right. So let's break down the work. Let's break down the work breakdown structure. I like that. Basically, the work breakdown structure addresses what tasks must be completed, in what order they must be completed, who the tasks are assigned to individually, and how much time is adequate for completing the tasks. These are the main components of a work breakdown structure. Basically a list of tasks, but you now have to sequence them. Okay, it's like going to a hairdresser's salon, right? You got to wash your hair before you can dry it. That kind of thing. So there's got to be sequence, okay? And then, of course, you know the people that each task is assigned to. And they are the ones that will tell you exactly how much time is required to complete each of those tasks. These are the things involved in the work breakdown structure. Now, let's jump straight into the network analysis because we don't have a lot of time. In the network analysis, you're aligning your tasks according to precedence. Basically, which tasks must be performed first and which tasks depend on previous tasks for their commencement or completion. It's pertinent to remember here that some tasks can be performed concurrently, simultaneously, at the same time. We call them parallel tasks. Now, you're going to end up adding your task durations for each task, as I said earlier, based on recommendations from the assigned resource personnel. That's your team members or subject matter experts. They are the ones who tell you exactly how much time it's going to take to perform the task that is assigned to them, not you as a project manager. So if you're the SME, understand that that's your job. If you're the project manager and you're taking this course, understand that you have to delegate that task to different people, and they now give you feedback on how long it's going to take to complete each task. You now aggregate all that time to get a budget. But we're going to get to that. Now, in a network analysis, you perform what is called a forward pass. And that's from start of the project to finish of the project. The forward pass allows you to calculate the early start, called the ES, and the early finish, called the EF. You're also going to perform a backward pass from finish to start of a project, and that determines the late start of a project and the late finish of the project. I don't want to go into too much details here, otherwise we're going to spend the entire day here just on the network diagram and analysis. Let's look at the tool called the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart are basically horizontal bars depicting tasks and their durations. Their calendar dates included, showing each activity, starting date, and finishing date. There are also links between dependent activities, and basically you're going to have a pictorial view of task relationships. Basically, there are tasks that are called FS, finish start, and there are tasks that are called SS, start start. Basically, finish start means that this task must finish before the next one can start. SS is start start. That means both of them start together, simultaneously, parallel tasks. They don't necessarily have to end at the same time based on the differing durations of each of the tasks, but they're going to start at the same time. Basically, the Gantt chart finally includes subject matter experts who are in charge of each activity and, of course, their degree of involvement. Some people can spend 2 hours on a project per day, 3 hours, 5 hours. Some are there. A project manager is on that project 8 hours a day, and on and on. So that is in the Gantt chart that you depict that, so you know how to calculate the cost of your project per day, per hour, per week, and on and on and on. Now, that brings me to, I'm going to be ending on scope management. I'm going to do a little review, which is just one question I'm going to be sharing with you, the kind of sample examples that come up in an exam. All right? So the example is expert judgment, interviews, data analysis, representation, and context diagrams are all examples of what? Is it A, collect requirements, which is part of tools and techniques? Is it B, define scope, which is part of outputs? Is it C, project initiation, which is part of inputs? Or is it D, communication planning, which is part of the processes? The answer to that is A, collect requirements. Basically, these are tools and techniques used to collect and elicit project requirements. So basically, expert judgment, interviews, data analysis, you're using them as tools to collect project requirements going forwards. All right, I want to share a little bit here, stop for 30 seconds and share a little bit here about the PMP qualifying information, because that's what a lot of you are here today for. So traditionally, it takes about 3 to 5 years to amass, to put together your verified project management experience. The KDL team has patented a 17-week, 4-month path. Look at that difference between 3 to 5 years and 17 weeks. That's what the KDL leadership is offering. Traditionally, again, it requires you showing evidence of between 4,500 to 7,500 hours of signed-off project management activity to be approved to take the PMP exam by the Project Management Institute. The KDEL has perfected a 112-day, once-per-week Zoom-delivered alternative that will meet the 35 contact hours that you require to get things done. All right. I just need to stop a little bit there. Let's go to schedule number B, project schedule. We're going to be talking about project schedule right now. And in project schedule, as I said, there are 7 processes there. As you can see on the screen, plan your schedule management, define activities, sequence the activities, estimate the activity resources, estimate activity durations, develop your schedule, and control schedule. Remember, when we talk about schedule, we're talking about time. We've done the scope, which is the boundaries. Now we're going to look at time. What is required at different points in time to get the job done? Again, I'm going to start with the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs of project schedule management. And as I said, on the inputs, there are 2 out of the 4 you're going to see here that are common across most of the knowledge areas. And those are the enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Of course, the inputs here include the project management plan and the project charter. Those are inputs. What are the tools and techniques? Here again, there are 2 that are common: expert judgment and meetings. And in addition to that, there are analytical techniques because we are discussing time management. And then the output is the schedule management plan, time management plan, but it's called the schedule management plan. Again, the 7 processes in this knowledge area also have their inputs, techniques, and outputs. It's your prerogative, it's your job to learn and memorize them from your PMBOK guide. Let's move on. So let's break down project time management, which is project schedule. Let's just break it down right now. All right? A schedule, project schedule has activities that are assigned durations and then sequenced in a logical manner. That makes sense. Number 2, a project schedule defines the start and end dates of the entire project and of each of the project activities. Now, there are several software you can use to do that as well. There's Microsoft Project, Primavera. They are the most popular tools used for project schedule development. I use Concept Draw Office because it takes me from the beginning, from brainstorming through mind mapping, all the way to production of the project document. Now, there's a manual sequencing of a project schedule, and I recommend that for small projects. Okay? It allows project managers to develop, calculate, and leverage network diagrams, critical paths, and resource allocations and reallocations. We're going to talk in some more on those later on down the road. So what we have to ask ourselves now is, what are the types of relationships? As I said, there's the FS, SS, FF, and SF. What do those mean? The FS means finish to start. That means the successor cannot start before the predecessor task has finished. You have to wait for the task behind to finish before you can start. That's a finish-start relationship. The SS is a start-to-start relationship. The successor cannot start before the predecessor has started. So both of them can start at the same time, or the predecessor must start first before the successor activity can start. But the successor activity does not have to wait for the predecessor to finish before it can start. They are start-start. Finish to finish means that the successor cannot finish before the predecessor has finished. Both activities are expected to finish at the same time. So you're going to work from the front and work backwards to see when each activity starts, depending on their individual durations. And then you have a start to finish. Start to finish means the successor cannot finish before the predecessor has started. All right? So you can see these 4 different styles work depending on the kind of work you do, the kind of processes involved in the project that you are controlling or that you're working in. All right? I want to talk about a few key schedule management terms. And I'm going to be talking about leads, lags, and rolling wave planning. These are 3 key aspects that most project management practitioners struggle with. Okay? The lead is a successor activity is said to have a lead when it can start in advance of the end of its predecessor activity. That means if this activity is stopping here and the other one is supposed to start, that one can start before this ends. That means we have a lead. We're gaining some time. The lag is the opposite. A successful activity is said to have a lag when it cannot start and needs to be delayed with respect to the predecessor. So if the predecessor is ending now and you wanted that one to start immediately, well, when there's a lag, there's a difference between the time the predecessor stops and the time the successor starts. There's a lag in between them. That's what lags are. And then, of course, rolling wave planning is an iterative planning technique in which the work to be accomplished in the near term is planned in greater detail, while the work to be done in the future is planned at a higher level. Basically, you're not waiting to plan out your entire project from start to finish before you start execution. If you've planned out stage 2, you can start executing stage 1 while you're planning stage C, and on and on. So your plan, some people are ahead planning and others are coming behind executing. All right. An example of that is if you are laying plumbing pipes or drainage pipes along a street. The first gang are the ones that dig the ditch. The second gang coming behind them are the ones that lay the pipes. And the third gang coming behind them are the ones that fill up the ditch. That is rolling wave planning. You don't want to dig the ditch all the way from beginning to the end. Let's say it's 5 miles. You don't want to dig 5 miles before you come back and lay 5 miles of pipe and then come back again and close them. You can dig half a mile, lay half a mile, close up a quarter of a mile, and you're going on. So you have 3 sets of people working together. That's an example of rolling wave planning. All right, let's look at how to estimate costs. All right, when we're looking at cost estimation techniques going forwards, all right, because that's all part of time management. All right, expert judgment is defined as an educated guess. Analogous estimation is defined as actual costs from a past similar project. If you had a similar project before, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just go ahead and pick up those ones and massage them based on today's costs. So you're not working from scratch. Parametric modeling is where you have standard parameters to estimate the cost. For example, you can say this costs $20 per square foot. You're going to buy carpeting, for instance. It's $20 per square foot. So based on that, you can calculate exactly how much the carpet is going to cost you if you're looking for 500 square foot of carpet. That is parametric modeling of estimation. Bottom-up estimation is where the cost estimates of individual activities roll up to the costs in one final estimate. For example, building costs. You get the bill from the bricklayer, the plumber, the electrician, the ironmonger, all that comes together. You're rolling it up, is bottom-up estimation. It's the most accurate form of estimation because you're getting the estimates individually from the people who will actually do the work. The estimates are more accurate. All right? And then you have computer model estimates. Basically, you're utilizing project management software that often has the capability to provide cost estimates. All right, so let's get into the tools for developing your schedule. All right, and those tools include schedule network analysis. I talked about the network analysis where you have those numbers. We're going to show you that a little bit. The critical path method, the resource optimization method, data analysis, what if scenarios, simulations, leads and lags. We talked a little bit about that. Schedule compression, where you talk about crashing and fast tracking. Project management information system. Of course, we're looking at computers now and PMOs, project management offices and databases. And then, of course, agile release planning. I'm going to just give some small definitions of those going forwards. So let's go. Before I talk about schedule network analysis, I want to talk about one principal little thing called a box. It is called an activity nodule. Each of those boxes represent an activity. And in that activity, we have an early start, an early finish, a late start, a late finish, the duration of the activity, and something called the slack. So when you're performing a forward pass, I want you to see the V in red. The forward pass means that you are adding up the early start plus the duration to give you the early finish. Basically, the formula there, as you can see on the screen, is early start plus duration gives you early finish. If you know when you're starting the project or the activity, you know the duration of the activity, that way you can know when you're finishing. It's simple. Now, on the other hand, there's something else called a backward pass. The backward pass is aimed at identifying and calculating the late start and late finish of the activities. So what happens here? Basically, your late finish minus your duration gives you your late start. All right? So in the forward pass, your early start plus duration gives you an early finish. In the backward pass, your late finish minus your duration gives you your late start. Bear that in mind as we go forwards, okay? Now, sometimes in the exam, they don't give you that this way. They give you an alternate node leveling, and that's what I'm sharing with you now. You can see this is a bit different. The duration is at the top middle. So in essence, the early start plus the duration gives you the early finish. However, the late start plus the duration gives you the late finish, as you can see. So what I want to say here is it's important to use whichever style of labeling that you see in the exam. Once you understand the principle, early start plus duration is early finish. Late start plus duration is late finish. Simple. There's nothing difficult about it. All right. So let's move on. Now I'm going to talk about another phenomenon called slack. Okay? A lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between float and slack. Okay? Total float or slack is the amount of time that a task can be delayed without delaying or extending the project finish date. So the amount of time you can delay one small task and it does not delay the completion of the entire project. That is total float. Free float, however, is the amount of time that a task can be delayed without delaying the early start date of the next task. So free float deals with the next task. Total float deals with the entire project. Okay, so once you bear that in mind, you know that float is talking about the entire project. Slack is talking about the individual activities that comprise the entire project. In essence, the late start, take away your early start, is your slack. Or the late finish, take away your early finish, is the slack. So I'm going to be talking about vertical subtractions as we go on. All right, when we get there, I'm going to show you that vertical subtractions on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side of the activity nodule. That's how you calculate the slack. So a schedule network analysis, therefore, is a technique that generates the project schedule model. This technique includes what we call the critical path method, CPM, the what-if analysis, and resource optimization techniques. All right? So I'm going to introduce, as I did in the first masterclass, a fictitious project, a very simple project on the next slide. I'm introducing that because I want to use that to show you visually what the network diagram looks like. So on the top right there is the project. As you can see, there's A, B, C, D, all the way to J. Those are the activities. The predecessors are in the middle column, and the durations in weeks are on the right-hand side. So when you're talking about a critical path method, okay, what I'm not showing you on the right-hand side is the work breakdown structure. It's depicted on the right side. There'll be 4 paths from start to completion. We're going to trace the network and use the forward and backward passes to identify the activity slacks, which in turn is going to help us determine the critical paths. We're going to add up task durations along each activity path and identify the path with the longest time. We're also going to trace the path with 0 slack on each activity. Basically, these two summations are identical. They're going to identify the same critical path. So every activity along this line must therefore be completed within the time specified, or the project will not be completed on time. Now, there are other paths that will be greater than 0. Basically, you have some wiggle room. People can go on vacation, go on leave, take some time off, and what have you, without negatively impacting the finish date of the entire project. All right. So that is just a summation of what the critical path looks like or sounds like. So let's talk about the resource leveling technique, forward pass. Let me show you the forward pass right now with this fictitious project we're working with. All right, this is what the forward pass looks like. Yeah, I know it's a big picture and all that, but as you can see, activity A, if you look right there, you see that activity A has no predecessor. It's the first activity. That's the one on the left, on the extreme left here. It has a duration of 2 weeks. So you're doing 0 plus 2 is 2. That's the V, forward pass. We're moving from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. But something is happening here. A is feeding activity B, C, and D. Why is that? Because if you look here, you're going to see that the predecessors for activities B, C, and D is A, is the same. That means activities B, C, and D feed off from activity A. That's why activity A in this diagram is feeding into B, C, and D. You have those red arrows there. And that continues. That's how we get the diagram in place. Just look at the predecessor and connect them together. And that takes you to the end. The V's is to calculate when each one will start, when each one will end. Remember, the forward pass is meant to calculate the early start and early finish. And the backward pass is meant to calculate the late start and late finish. So let's go to, so basically you can see only the numbers on top are complete. The numbers on the very top of each of those boxes is complete. Those are the numbers, early start and early finish. Okay? When we do a backward pass, we're going to focus on the numbers below, which are empty right now. So let's go to that screen. All right, and we're going to do the backward pass right now. And that backward pass, you're going to see 20. I'm going to start from the J on the right-hand side and move to the left-hand side. Okay, and basically look at those green arrows are going backwards. Those green arrows tell you how the subtraction is done. 22 at the bottom here on the right-hand side, take away 5 gives you 17. The 17 goes over here. 17 take away 6 is 11. 17 take away 5 is 12, and on and on and on, all the way back to A. That is a backward pass. What you've just done now is you have populated the early start, the early finish, the late start, the late finish. Why do we need to calculate that? Because without them, you cannot calculate the slack. And as I said to you, the slack is different. The slack is a vertical subtraction. In each of those blocks, which are activities, a vertical subtraction. Let's look at activity A. If you look on the left-hand side, 0 take away 0 is 0. 2 take away 2 is 0. Look at the numbers in red. Those are the slacks. Let's look at activity B. 2 take away 4 is 2. 6 take away 8 is 2. That's why you have those 2's there, and on and on. So as you go on from the beginning to the end, you're just doing a vertical subtraction on both sides of the boxes, and they're going to be the same. If they're not the same, then there's something wrong with the calculations. You got to go back and get that done. All right? So that's what has just happened here, as you can see. We're taking them away vertically. All right, once you've done that, you now see the numbers. You're going to trace the activities that have 0 slack. Okay, and as you can see here, the activities with 0 slack are activity A, C, F, H, and J. The others have some slack on them. Those with 0 slack are the ones that are called critical tasks. As you can see now, they are the critical tasks because they are the ones that have 0 slack. So in essence, what you've just done now is you have traced the critical path and you have identified the critical tasks. The critical tasks are the tasks that fall along the critical path. And that's what you've just calculated now. Now, remember, this is a small fictitious project because I just wanted us to understand what's going on before we move further. Okay? All right. I'm going to jump quickly into agile release planning. Okay? Agile is mostly for development projects, software development projects. There's a style of project management where you don't have a plan fully in place. You are iterating, working, making mistakes, correcting the mistakes as you're working and moving on. In most agile work, money is not the problem. Time is the problem, and an end product is what everybody is looking at. So they want to see results very quickly, even if there are mistakes along the way. So let's look at what agile release planning really is. The series of sprints. Okay, the sprints are called, actually, you're executing and tweaking, you're making corrections, you're iterating some of the mistakes on the smaller parts of the project. So after each sprint, the project may be reprioritized. Basically, agile release planning determines the current state by comparing the total work done and delivered with the estimates of the work that is proposed, plan versus execution. And this is in respect to cost, time, and quality. It's used mainly by software development, IT projects. Okay? All right. So in essence, let me give you a pictorial view of what agile release planning, the processes involved. All right, there are 6 processes: the concept, the inception, the iteration, the sprints I talked about, the release, the maintenance, and the retirement. The concept is when you're dreaming about it. The inception is where you're putting together your plan, your basic plan. It's not yet complete, but that's the inception. And when you get to the iteration, that's where you do your trial and error. Basically, that's what happens here. In the iteration, they're called sprints. And you do those trial and error, get it done, get back up there. If you need another sprint, you're going to do that again, get it back up there until you get it right, until the owner of the product or the project tells you it's okay. You're doing those sprints. And then once that is done, you move to release, okay, and you move to maintenance. And then, of course, once you release the product, you're just maintaining it because there's still a few quirks that you need to work with. And then the project is retired. Project retirement means project end. It is ended, we're done with it. Okay, that's really agile release planning. The rest you will learn when you get into the PMP Fast Track coaching program. So a little bit of PMP qualifying information again, because that's why you're here. All right, you can spend over $9,000 in the 3 to 5 years to amass your verified project management experience, study materials, coaching programs, and boot camps. The KDEL has patented a $2,500 cost payable in 1 to 5 installments. Again, it may require you taking a leave of absence from work to prepare adequately for the PMP exam, especially for boot camps, deep study, and coaching sessions. KDEL has perfected a 17-day because it's 1 day per week, a 17-day, 1 day per week alternative that demands between 1.5 hours and 2.5 hours, depending on what you are studying. Basically on a Zoom attendance each week, basically between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. after work hours on Zoom, once a week. All right. Now, there are some knowledge areas that are going to take a few more hours to get done, like cost and schedule and procurement will take 2.5 hours. And then the others can take 2 hours and some can take 1.5 hours. Agile can take 2 hours and on and on. But that comes into the detail when you are getting ready. So for more information on how to enroll, you can go ahead and look at that link there. You can pause the video, take that link there and make sure you enroll. Now, there are different payment plans for you. I'm going to be sharing that later on. But for now, let's jump straight into number 3, and that is C, project cost management. All right? So, project cost management, what does that entail? Project cost management includes the processes involved in estimating, budgeting, and controlling costs so that the project can be completed within the approved budget. It has to be finished. The project has to be completed within the approved budget money. Now, again, note that the techniques for estimating costs of projects are the same as the techniques used for estimating time. All right? So the schedule that we're working on now and the cost that we're looking at right now, again, the techniques for estimating those are the same. And the output in this regard is called the cost management plan. This is a plan that contains the details about managing costs on a project. The project cost management plan is a subsidiary of the project management plan. So, what does project cost management entail? There are 4 different aspects. Number 1, you got to plan your cost management. You got to estimate your costs. You got to determine your budget, and then you got to control your costs during execution. You see what we're getting to now? These are the things that you have to do in cost management. All right. Let me share my screen again because I need you to be with me on this page going forwards. All right. So let me share my screen again. We can move on. Again, as you see here right now, you can see the inputs to the project cost management is enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets. Is that familiar? Yes. The same inputs that we had. Of course, there's a project management plan and a project charter. And if you go to the tools and techniques, again, you see a repetition there. Commonality, the expert judgment and meetings. Of course, there's analytical techniques as well there. And the output is the cost management plan. That is the output. Now, these four processes in this area also have inputs, techniques, and outputs, and it is up to you to learn and memorize them from your PMBOK guide. Learn and memorize them from your PMBOK guide. Now, in controlling costs, I want to say here that the tools and techniques are central to this knowledge area. Everything you're going to be seeing in the exam will be focusing on earned value. How much work has the money we put in done? Is it in consonance with the plan we made, or are we overrunning costs or underrunning costs? Are we spending more at every stage, or are we spending less? That's really what it is, and that's where what earned value is about. You want to know the formula, and I'd like you to go to, when you're ready, you have your PMBOK guide, you go to table 7.1. Table 7.1 is where you go to see the costs, the earned value formula involved, all right? Okay, let me share that with you right now, exactly what it is that you're going to be seeing when you go to table 7.1. The earned value technique is a method to measure project performance against the project baseline, all right? You have the acronyms on the left, PV, EV, AC, BAC, EAC, ETC, VAC. These are all terms. You can see the descriptions there. Planned value, end value, actual cost. Just listen to the meaning of the words. You don't have to try to cram them or memorize them. Just listen to the planned value, the value you planned. Earned value, what you actually earned after getting the work done. Actual cost, what you actually spent in the field, not what was planned, and on and on. Budget at complete, what the end budget was after you completed, not what you planned, but after you completed, and on and on and on. So it's just quite simple going forward, okay? On the second page, I'm going to share some more acronyms as well on end value, all right? Some of those acronyms, as you can see here, cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, EAC, estimate to complete performance index, on and on. These formulas are important. You have to memorize them to be able to work out the problems during the exam. You see why it takes 3 to 5 years to get this done. But as I said, KDEL has put together a 17-week intensive course. Once a week, we're going to meet for 2 or 3 hours online. And at the end of 17 weeks, you should be ready to take your PMP exams. Remember, all the material comes directly to you from the PMI. We are just conduits to give you the stuff and to train you and to answer your questions. And there's going to be an exam simulation towards the end to ensure that you get a hands-on on what the exams look like and what kind of questions and answers are coming your way. All right. So, in summarizing cost management, I'd like to say something. Cost estimating is an educated guess of how much an activity or a project will cost. It's not exact. That's why it's called an estimate, cost estimating. All right? Budgeting will take a cost estimate, set aside some funds to complete the project. Budgeting can also include durations or calendar start and end dates. I'll advise you to review your cost management processes and the concept of earned value. You want to review those going forwards. All right, it's time to answer a cost question, all right? Because after each one, I'd like to share a cost question with you, just for you to get a grasp of what is coming your way going forwards. So The question and answer here is spending for the project in the chart is, what is it? Remember, the blue line shows you the plan, and the magenta line shows you the actual expenditure. So as you can see here, the blue line, which is the plan, is slightly higher than the actual. All right, the actual is slightly lower than the planned. So what does that tell you here? Is it that the actual cost is below the plan, but it is increasing? Is it that it's ahead of a plan, but under control? Is it that it's ahead of plan and out of control? Or is it that there's not enough information to know? The answer to that, my friends, is A. It is below the plan. As you can see here, the magenta line is below the plan, but as you get higher, it is increasing, and somewhere in the middle there is going to become the same as the plan. So you have to be able to read through what you see and just answer the question simply. Don't overthink it. If you go through the course, you know the material, okay? A lot of people fail exams because they overthink things. It's simple. Just answer what you've learned and you'll be fine. All right, it's that time again when I'm going to give you some more PMP certification fast track information. All right? As I said, your study materials will come directly from PMI once you grab your spot. The spot I'm talking about is the PMP Certification Fast Track Coaching Program. You can see the link on top of me right there behind me. All right? Okay, the QR codes you see on my left and right are payment options, which I'm going to be displaying on the screen right now for you. All right? So I'm displaying them on the screen. There are 3 payment options. Option number 1 is a one-time payment of $2,500 payable before the start of the program. In this case, by July 1st, 2025. The program starts on July 16th. Okay, and that is the link there for you to make that payment. Option number 2, for those who want to break it up, is a 2 installment payment plan of $1,250 each, payable at the start of the first month and at the start of the 3rd month of the program. So you can start the program, and after 2 months, you pay the 2nd installment. In this case, you're looking on the 1st of July and on the 1st of September of this year, and that is a link there. The 3rd option, option number 3, is a 5 installment payment plan that includes, first of all, a $500 deposit to grab your spot on the program, and that's a link, and then 4 payments of $525 each, spread over the 4-month duration of the coaching program. Each $525 payment is due at the start of each month. That's the link there. In this case, on the 1st of July, on the 1st of August, on the 1st of September, and on the 1st of October. The program ends on November the 5th, 2025. So bear that in mind going forward, okay? Now, I have a special program, I have a special offer, all right? If you stay until the end, I'm going to give you a link to a special offer of $2,000 for masterclass attendees only. Or if you get hold of this video, but you got to do it immediately, all right? Once we get into starting from the 1st of July, you won't be able to get access to that $2,000 offer, all right? So stay till the end and I'll give you that link. If you don't stay till the end, you don't get the link, all right? Okay, let's move into the last thing we're sharing today. That is project quality management. Project quality management. And to do that, I'm going to, first of all, define quality management. I'm going to define quality management. Quality is the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfill your requirements. You're comparing the final outcome to the planned outcome. Okay? That's quality. Grade, when you say grade, is a category assigned to deliverables that have the same functionality but different technical characteristics, rankings. And accuracy is defined as a degree of closeness to the actual value. Precision, on the other hand, is a granularity of measurement, percentages, and level of detail. All right, I just wanted to break that down a little bit because some of us hear about quality, we hear about grade, we hear about accuracy. To learn more about that, sign up for the program because some of these are exam questions that will be turning up for you. Okay, So let's get straight into project quality management. Again, I'm going to put that on the screen for you so you can follow me and share and basically learn along as we go. So project quality management includes planning the quality, managing the quality, and controlling the quality. Again, as with all knowledge areas, I want you to be familiar with the inputs, the tools, the techniques, and outputs for each process. Be familiar with them. All right? Okay. So let's go ahead and look at project quality management in its entirety. Quality management is defined, includes creating and following policies and procedures that meet the project's defined quality needs. And what is the aim of quality management? What is the aim of quality management? It is to ensure that the specified or recommended approaches to quality are implemented on the project. There are three aspects of quality management. I call them PAC. The first one is quality planning. The next one is quality assurance. And the last one is quality control. Planning happens before the work starts. Assurance happens while the work is going on, because you're there to ensure that people do not deviate from the quality. And control happens for people who count the beans, who come in later on to see what mistakes have been made and to bring us back in line. So quality assurance is ongoing all the time. Quality control happens intermittently when the bosses come or the supervisors come to see how far you're going, and they can make corrections at that time. Let's look at a few concepts of quality, all right? A few concepts. There's something called total quality management. It's an integrated management philosophy around quality and continuous improvement. You're discussing continuous improvement. Kaizen is Japanese for change for better. They include small continuous improvements. The Deming cycle is a plan, do, check, act cycle. It's a framework for process control and improvement. And Kanban is a pool-based inventory management system based on the principle of just-in-time inventory. Kaizen and Kanban are of Japanese origin, okay, because they are the masters of inventory control, all right? When you have very little land mass and thousands of islands, you learn to manage your warehousing. That's where it all came from. But we'll get into that much later on. So I want us to understand these definitions for the PMP exam. All right? Quality management, grades, categories, and ranking, accuracy and precision, basically percentage and detail, cost of quality, producing and maintaining quality, optimal quality, maximum achievable cost per value or cost-wise. Optimal quality is the maximum you can achieve basically with the money that you're spending. Now, there are a couple of quality management tools we're going to be looking at. Okay, I'll kind of reel them out right now, and then we can break them down a little bit. Okay, we're going to be looking at the cause and effect diagram, check sheets, flow charts, bar charts, histograms, scatter diagrams, and control charts. All right, I'm going to introduce us to the concept of Six Sigma. All right, so again, let me share that with us. We're coming to the end of the masterclass, okay? I just want you guys to just bear with me, pay a little bit of attention right now so we can close this thing out coolly, all right? Now, what you have on the left-hand side there is a bell curve. It's a normal bell curve. And this is how to depict your standard deviation, okay? So a standard deviation is used to measure how far the data is from the mean. The mean is the red line, red dotted line at the center of the bell curve. So in any such distribution, if you go 1 sigma above or below, it covers 68% of the data. At 6 sigma, and that's what the name 6 sigma, the distribution covers 99.9997% of the data. That means you are only allowed, as a Lean Six Sigma person or a PMP credentialed project manager, you're only allowed 4 mistakes out of 1 million occurrences. That is the high level of precision that is required from you and I as project managers. Time to go into quality management question, and then we're coming to the end. We're looking at a quality management question right now, and then we're coming to the end. So the question here is, the three processes of project quality management are plan quality management, perform quality assurance, control quality. That's A. Or quality planning, quality improvement, quality control. That's B. Or C, plan quality management, manage quality, control quality. Or D, quality assurance, quality planning, quality management. Is all very confusing, isn't it? But we went through that a couple of slides back. The correct answer is C. You're planning, managing, and controlling quality, and these are the processes in quality management. Plan quality management, manage quality, control quality. You see how, don't overthink it. I said to you, it is PAC, all right? All right? It is plan, assurance, and control. Plan quality, manage quality, and control quality. Manage is done in real time throughout. All right. I did promise you that at the end, I was going to share the PMP certification early bird link, okay? The one that gives you only a $2,000 pricing, but you have to get it now. So just go ahead right now. This is a PMP certification early bird link, all right? This is the early bird link. And that is a link on the top of that, okay? On the top of that, again, the QR code will take you to that link. You can get it. It's going to be put down immediately. People have access. Once we finish our last masterclass, it gets put down. It will not be accessible anymore. So if you have this video, take advantage of it. Go ahead and get your seat ready. We'll start on July the 16th. All right? That's just me trying to reward those who've taken the time to spend the time with me and to watch this video with me. All right? Okay. So take a little time there and get that done because we're moving ahead. As I said, it is a $2,000 early bird full payment. Normally, the full payment for the program is $2,500. And those who are paying in installments are going to be paying $500, $525, $525, on and on and on. You can just get it done right now. You're good to go. So pause that video and get it done. But I have to move on. So the next thing I want to share with you is the fast track information. All right. The first QR code you see here is a QR code that describes the PMP certification. All right. If you click on that, if you take a picture of that QR code, if you take it to our website where you see the full description, the landing page, the full description of the PMP certification. The second QR code you're going to see is looking at option 1. The $2,500 one-time full payment. Well, if you're watching this video, I'm giving you an early bird offer of $2,000. So you might want to leave this alone and grab the $2,000, okay? The third one you're looking at there, the third QR code you're looking at is option 2, the $1,250 two-time payments, first of the month, the first week of the first month, and the first week of the third month. Remember, the program is 4 months. So you pay month 1 and you pay month 3 twice, and you're good to go. The final QR code we see there is option 3. And this first one is a $500 deposit. And the other QR code on the right-hand side is the $525 4-time payments. So these two come together. At the bottom there, these two come together because they're really the same. It's 5 installments, but the first payment is $500 to grab your seat, and the other 4 installments are $525 on the first of every month subsequently. Okay? All right. So again, you can pause that video here and take that screenshot going forwards. All right. So having said that, I want to share with you again the early bird versus the full payment link. All right? The early bird versus the full payment link. I'm going to be sharing that with you going forwards. Okay, I want you to take your time right now and go ahead and get your early bird payment on the left-hand side there, and then your full-time payment on the right-hand side. That will be the early bird payment will go away. So please avail yourself of that opportunity. Well, that brings us to the end of the program. This is masterclass number 2, and we have reviewed scope, schedule, cost, and quality. And I've also given you some information on how to get your seat on the program. You can either use the link on top of my head there to get those, or you can use the link on the screen right now to make it happen for yourselves. Our next masterclass is going to be occurring on June the 2nd, 2025, again by 6 p.m. Eastern on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. We're going to be streaming to those as well. The notifications are going to come in, so you want to connect with me on LinkedIn so you can receive those notifications. You can receive all the build-up to this very exciting program, because what we're trying to do is to ensure that by November, you're a PMP. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal in the project management world. So on June the 2nd, we're going to be having masterclass number 3. And that is going to be focusing on project human resource management, project communications management, project risk management, project procurement management. Those are the things we're going to be looking at: HR, communications, risk, and procurement. And then, of course, on our final masterclass on July 11th, 1 week before the program starts, we're going to be doing the last of them, including agile, procurement, stakeholder management, and on and on and on. These are the things we're going to be looking at going forwards. It's time for me to say goodbye, my friends. Okay, I want to thank you all so much for working with me. Once again, I'll see you next time, June the 2nd, 2025, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Until then, this is Dr. KD Ewulu signing out. I'll see you again. Take care of yourselves. Be safe out there. Bye for now.